You're listening to the Get Off My Soapbox podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We want to make the world a better place and share life-educated opinions and have discussions on various topics. Welcome your host. He is a jack of all trades, master of none, and always wants to know, how's your integrity today? Mad Morgan!
Yes, it's that time again, folks. It is Wednesday evening. Thank you for joining me for Get Off My Soapbox, episode 17. I'm your host, Mad Morgan. I want to thank you for tuning in this evening for our long format show of Get Off My Soapbox. Thank you very much for being here. I know it's once a week for some of us, but it's a longer format. Let's just talk a little more about things and get a little deeper into our topics, unlike our Soapbox Daily, which is usually a very quick show during the week. But let's get into this. Thank you much, as I said, for tuning in. And how has your integrity been this week? Has it been good? This is good. Only you will know. And hey, if it needs some work, there's always tomorrow. So keep trying to be the positive change that the world needs. Today's topic, and I was kind of thinking about this one because it was, I guess, over everybody's life, we admire people. We look at people with admiration. And there's a saying, which is about the topic that we're talking about this evening, why you should never meet your heroes. That is the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Now, what I mean by heroes is, like, for instance, I know you've heard me mention about my mom. My mom is my hero. Of course, I've met her. But I'm talking about, in general, heroes that seem to be at a distance. You don't really know them. Those kind of heroes. Whether or not it be an actor, whether it be a musician, an artist of any kind, or whether or not it be a political figure, somebody that's beyond knowing. Like, they're not friends, they're not family, not somebody you've actually made acquaintance with, but they're just somebody that you admired from a distance. So today we're talking about, hey, why you should never meet your heroes. And I'm going to get into this a little on this one. Before I get into this, please check out GetOffMySoapbox.com. All our information's there. Check out the FAQ. We're going to be making some changes to the Get Off My Soapbox process come the beginning of December, which is, I believe, next week, next month and next week. So what we're going to stop doing is we're going to stop doing the video component of Get Off My Soapbox. We're just going to do the podcasts moving forward until we get some more sponsors and some more financial assistance. We have to free up that time slot in the process it takes to actually make the video, because that is quite lengthy. So we're just going to do the podcast. So you'll still get the Get Off My Soapbox podcast. You just won't get the video components on Twitch or over on YouTube. Yeah, that was it. I was trying to remember what that was called. So you're not going to get the video component on Twitch or on YouTube. And coincidentally, you're not going to get that linkage over on Reddit because, well, there's no video to link. So you're not going to get that. You will of course, get the Soapbox dailies every day, Monday to Friday. Those video components will be done because those are roughly about 5 to 8 minutes, depending. We have time. We have the budget. We have the person power to be able to do that. So please keep your eye on GetOffMySoapbox.com and check out the FAQs on that. So let's get into today's show. And like most of my shows, if I'm not winging it because it's just something I'm passionate about, something I know off the top of my head, I do some research. But here's an interesting little story on this one, which kind of sums up today's show. So I'm gonna read you off this and everything else, and it kind of gives a, I guess you'd say, somewhat humorous but impactful layout for today's show. So here we go on this one. They say never meet your heroes, and I can tell you from experience that it's good advice. I have met all my idols. I have been disappointed by every single one. When I found myself face to face with my favorite actor, he ripped up my autograph book in half with ease. I don't remember much after that, but I can tell you firsthand that his hair and teeth are real. And I will say, it was pretty cool when he let out the trademark roar that's filled theaters for decades. Almost made getting mauled by the MGM lion worth it. Almost. I'll never forget the night I ran into an artist whom I still consider a genius, even though she threw me out of her studio, which I invited myself into. Now, I'm not an art historian or anything, but as far as I'm concerned, you won't find a better painting than that famous one with the banana on it. I know what it's called. Banana painting, maybe? You may have seen it on the news. Anyway, when I witnessed that gorilla putting her God-given talent to use. Up close and personal, I froze. Then flew out of Go-Go's cage, then froze again when the spotlight was turned on me. It was around this time I stopped sneaking into zoos at night, but that didn't make celebrity encounters any better. I looked up to the fire department of New York, and they burned my house down. I asked Michael Jordan for a selfie, and he punched me in the face before vigorously washing his hands. I humiliated both myself and President Barack Obama when he refused to kiss me on the forehead because I wasn't a baby. Yep, all of my heroes have let me down. Even when I try to manage my expectation, you can spend hours in line thinking about how things likely won't go the way you want them to go when you finally get your book signed, and that won't prepare you for your favorite author writing a message dedicated to someone who isn't you inside the hardcover you shelled out decent dough for, despite the fact it's only going to collect dust on your bookshelf next to your Family Guy DVDs. I can understand confusing Alex with Alec, but Alex with Dorothy? That's my aunt's name. I ended up giving her my signed copy, but only after I ripped out the page with the "Your nephew sucks" on it. I suppose I should be happy that the Long Island medium really isn't a psychic, but let's just say that I'm borrowing her next book from the library. You probably won't believe me, but I promise you I'm not trying to brag when I tell you that I begged Ringo Starr for his drumstick and he threw his drum set at me. At the lowest of the low, I found God. I said prayers, built shrines, and looked for him in every single piece of burnt Wonder Bread that came out of my toaster. But when we met outside those pearly gates, she told me to go to hell. I don't know what it is, but I always seem to bring out the worst in people. Maybe it's the terrible things that I do, or maybe it's the horrible things that I say. If you pulled a taser on me and asked me why, I'd probably tell you that it's because I care too deeply. Before I stomped on your toes and made a break for it. As it turns out, the need the world isn't so bad. It's so bad. The devil is exactly as evil as he is on TV, but way shorter than I thought he'd be, which I really regret having told him. Now, in addition to poking me with a stick, he's reading over my shoulder while I write this. Ow. I know, it's a little comical. Read between the lines, you can kind of get it. So let's get into a little further. You find some interesting articles, and I'll tell you, some celebrities might agree with you that even them meeting their heroes is not a good thing. I frankly think that meeting your heroes, for whatever reason why you idolize these people, is probably a bad thing, because as much as they look great from a distance, you really have to pull back the layers of the flash and the fame and the way that they're presented in media and the way they're presented in press, the way they're presented in different formats, because they might not be as shining as you think they are. I mean, for a lot of people, meeting your heroes is that pinnacle experience of being a fan. But realistically, you have all this buildup of these expectations, and sometimes it gets into fantasy. It comes into all these other ideas of what you possibly think this person can be. You don't know these people. You only see them in the light that you want to see them. Whether or not you admire them from, a whole bunch of different ways. As I mentioned, not necessarily just actors or musicians or politicians or people that have done something or written books or authors or you name it. But we build up these expectations in our heads for what we think these possibly could be. I'll give you some rough ideas let me give you some pointers here. 12 reasons you should never meet your heroes. I'm going to give you some 12 points for why you should never meet your heroes. Maybe this will give some perspective. You've read everything they've written. You've seen everything they've ever done. They've changed your life and the way that you think. You share, the same brain. Well, when at least you meet, there will be an instant connection. And the two of you will become best of friends, lifelong lasting friends. Or better yet, mentor and mentee. At least that's what would happen if it weren't for these 12 small problems I'm going to present to you, which fall in the category of 12 reasons you should never meet your hero. Number 1, you won't make an impression. It may be hard to believe, but I'm your biggest fan is about the least impressive thing you can say to someone who hears it almost constantly. In fact, I'm pretty sure the person in front of you just said the exact same thing, and they got a tattoo to prove it. Number 2, you will embarrass yourself. So you've got to think of a new line and fast. Suddenly it's your turn. You decide to tell that story about how your hero gave your life new meaning, but you immediately realize this story is long and uninteresting. So you stop and ask what you think is a really insightful question. They respond with a nod, which you realize is all it really deserved, since it wasn't actually a question after all, but now they're talking to someone else. You missed your chance. Also, your fly is down. They will be mean to you. This is number 3, this might be the greatest moment of your life, but for them, this is just another tedious stop on a press tour they are obligated to attend if they want to get their paycheck and go home to their enormous but empty house. No doubt, the contrast between your happiness and their indifference will make them come across as mean, but they're not mean. They just don't care less about you. Them, it's just a job. Number 4, they will be nice to you. Even worse than finding out your hero is mean is finding out they're overly nice, like eager to hear what you have to say. What? This person doesn't have friends? They care about what some know-nothing 20-something has to say about their seminal work of genius? How needy is this person? Number 5, they won't care about the thing you care about. In fact, they may seem less familiar with their own work than you are. In their defense, do you remember that paper you wrote in your sophomore year? No. Well, that's probably what it's like for them, even if 2 million people read theirs. Number 6, they will ask you for money. $20 for their newest work didn't seem like much. But when there is a millionaire, when a millionaire is staring at you blankly in the face with their hand outstretched, even figuratively, suddenly it seems like a lot. Like, seriously, you can't just let me have this? You can't spare one copy for your biggest fan? What a miser. I mean, obviously, this person that's your hero obviously has tons of money because they're famous. Number 6, they won't remember you. Even this is not the first time you've met them. Sure, it's going to feel like it is. Don't you remember that thing I said that one time before about being your biggest fan? They don't remember. They see hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people on a regular basis. Number 8, they will try to get rid of you. Assuming that all goes well in your brief encounter, you won't want to leave. And chances are you won't until they make it abundantly clear they want you gone. It's nothing like the feeling of your biggest hero trying to be rid of you forever. They will be far more interested, number 9, far more interested in that annoying person than you, as odd as it seems, because they're doing something different, like that annoying person that had that very funny ringtone that went off when they were talking. I mean, what could they possibly see in that dumb blonde that they don't see in you because you're their biggest fan? I mean, yeah, this hero of yours is only human after all. I mean, they just need some distraction that's out of the ordinary because a lot of it is repetition for them. Same fans, same wording, same everything else. So something that's out of the ordinary kind of catches their attention a little more because it becomes, I can imagine, a little humdrum for them. Number 10, they will have a wallet chain or some equally bizarre affection that makes you question everything you've ever believed in. An earring? Really? And are those Crocs? Number 11, they will seem surprisingly average. Unless you pictured your hero as some kind of short, aging guy with sunken eyes, you inevitably you'll be disappointed by how simple human they are. They don't exude an aura of greatness. In fact, they just seem like a regular person who watches a lot of sports on TV, leaving you to wonder, is this the pinnacle of person kind? Is this what I have to aspire to? And lastly, number 12, they won't be your hero anymore. You'll view their greatest, newest work with a sense of disenchantment. After all, they're just some person who was flipped to you at one time. And they're pretty good at what they do, but I mean, whatever. They're not like a god or something. There just is no heroes. Now keep in mind, I had to edit a few of that because it was all male-sided. It was all he's. And I want to be equal opportunity because there are heroes that are females, heroes that are males. So you can't just put a masculine on it. So I tried to edit out and tune that, of course, for an inclusive of, he and she type thing. So a lot of these and theys. But the bottom line is that never meet your heroes because they're going to be disappointing. I mean, I've admired people from a distance. And I've always put it off of, I want to meet them someday, or I want to see them someday. I want to, like, if they're a performer, I want to see them someday, but I would like to meet them someday as well. I think they'd be very interesting. And there's been a long list over the years. And I think what really got me thinking about this was when I finally got around to not necessarily meeting my heroes, but getting closer to the people that I admired, whether it be because of the music that they played or the acting that they did or something along those lines. In that case, well, yeah, I mean, I was expecting something more. Like I felt that I would be in a sense of, I don't know, greatness, awe-inspiring, just to be like some sort of amazing energy that came from these people. I have met people that I've admired over the years that were my heroes and saw them in a completely darkened light. Actors, singers, stuff like that, which my realization, and this came down from my years of working in the casino industry, my realization that these are just regular people. Sadly, they are not godlike. They are not next level. As much as I made them up my mind to be, I mean, I witnessed, there's some names that frankly you probably don't know because based on my age, I've had different influences than, of course, depending on who you are, what age you are listening to. But I've seen Larry Gowan play cards. I played blackjack with Burton Cummings. I've seen Christy Alley be drunk in the VIP room in the casino I worked at, to give you some ideas. And from a distance, they're just regular people that got fortunate enough to get limelight jobs, famous jobs, get big, get their name known. They are fortunate enough to have that opportunity, and they made something of themselves to the point where they were at. But all in all, they are just regular people regular people filling a job, doing a job for whatever reason. I frankly think, rather than the whole flash that we see when it comes to TV and media and the music industry and all this stuff like that, I mean, we're forming this completely fantastical type image of these people when frankly, what are they actually giving? I mean, let's go with actors and quote unquote singers. Okay. People in the music industry and people in the acting type industry. Now, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these famous people have publicists. They are promoted. They are promoted up the wazoo. They are promoted well beyond who they actually are. They are basically given managers that manage everything about them and make them shine in the everyday for the public to see. You don't know the truth about them because you're only getting what the media tells you. Okay. And even though you could not be inspired at all by what they're famous for, because that little voice inside of you says, wow, they're really crappy. You are brainwashed into believing, because of the publicists and because of all the media hype and because of all these fake statistics, fake stats, fake, columns. I mean, it's just a machine. It really is. I'll give you an example. There's a Canadian artist named Drake. The only thing he has going for him is he's Canadian. He started off doing a teenage type series called it was revamp of Degrassi Junior High, from what I understand. He had a great publicist. The guy doesn't sing. He doesn't sing. He can't sing, obviously. He just talks. He talks and there's a rhythm and there's a whole bunch of reverb and a whole bunch of auto-tune and everything else. But the guy really, in my opinion, has no talent. And people will argue with me on that one, but he really doesn't have any talent. He can't go a cappella. There's no way that he can sing without all the technology and without instruments and all that stuff like that. He just can't. He's all hype. But he's been pumped up. He's been pumped up in media, pumped up in press. Is amazing PR people like, wow, made a zero into a hero. But is he somebody to look up to? The only thing that I see about this person is a bunch of bragging about how rich he is and showing off his house and all his jewelry and everything else. But what does he give back to society? Can you consider him a hero? No, you can't. But depending on what you consider him to be a hero for, you admire him because of his clothes, his luxurious living. For whatever reason, you consider him a hero. A hero, in my opinion, gives back to others. A hero, in my opinion, makes the world a better place. In my viewpoint, that's a hero. I don't see this Drake person as a hero. One, because he didn't really earn his position. He was just published that way. And he doesn't really give back to anybody but himself. But some people will consider him a hero. And you'll be sadly disappointed to find out that all the press that has been surrounded around certain people is all false. It is all fake. It is all generated just to provide this illusion to sell whatever the person's known for or whatever they're pushing the person for. If they're pushing to be an actor, going to push the actor. Throw them into more movies. Fake reviews, fake ratings, fake all this stuff like that. It can be faked, especially in today's world. Everything can be faked and generated. No talent, lots of talent, whatever. In my opinion, I think heroes should be people that actually do stuff for the world, that make the world a better place. I mean, even there's been some actors that have done stuff that make the world a better place. And it's not all about them. Keanu Reeves is one example. He doesn't push press. He doesn't do all that stuff like that. All the stuff that's been told about him has been stuff that's been told without being by his knowledge. As an example, that's what I like to see. I like to see people that have more than they need, give back, but don't expect recognition for it. In my opinion, that's a hero. Somebody that makes a medical discovery that's going to help lots of people, hundreds and thousands, millions of people. That's a hero to me. Those are people I probably want to meet, but you never know. As much as you admire them from a distance, when you actually meet them face to face, they may be completely opposite of what you imagined in your head. I mean, I wanted to meet my George Michaels. I wanted to meet a lot of people in my life. There's a lot of people I thought would be very interesting to sit down and have a conversation with and talk to. But even as people that I mildly put in a hero category, or not necessarily hero category, but somebody that I admired to a certain degree, those have always left me wanting more and sadly disappointed. But I'll tell you, from people that have met their heroes, from people that are even famous themselves that have met who they admired or considered heroes, it's always been a disappointment. There are going to be some exceptions, don't get me wrong. But my advice to you would be, the heroes that you know, admire those people. Like I mentioned to you before, my mom's my biggest hero. She's one of my greatest heroes. Absolutely. I know I keep bringing her up, but I love her. She's helped me so much in my life. To me, she's my hero. She has led the example. She's got me to where I am at, and she's been a big part of my life. But there's other people I admire from a distance that I consider heroes. And it's something that I think if you don't know them personally yet, I wouldn't go out of your way to make a point of meeting them face to face and shaking hands with them. Admire them in your own way. However you envision them, admire them from that distance. Okay? Have the imagination and the fantasy part that puts them in the order that they are, but don't lose your head about it. Because maybe dumb it down a bit. Because there have been fans out there that have went crazy, infatuated with their heroes. And these fans have went crazy when they finally got to meet them. And they lost themselves because they had built up such an idea in their head that was completely wrong and sadly disappointed. I think I'd rather have that happy feeling of imagining my hero being this all-inspiring savior of many people to make them happy than to be disappointed for what I actually found out in the long run. That would just be, I think, heartbreaking. To put somebody on a pedestal, because I've done that before, put people on a pedestal, put them in a hero status, and then True Colors came out and they let me down. And I wouldn't want to see you go through that too. I don't know. Admire the heroes that you actually know. Keep them sacred. Keep them, in your hearts. The ones you don't actually know, admire from a distance. Just don't lose your head. Because at the end of the day, no matter where you think you are, whether how much you have or how much you don't have, or how famous you are or how not famous you are, we're all just human. Bottom line is we're all the same. Have or have nots, we are all the same. So don't think about it any differently than that. Anyways, that's something I just want to talk about today. I mean, I was reminiscing with a friend of mine today about people that we have lost and famous people that have come and went. And it's heartbreaking when you put somebody up in that pedestal and then you come to realize they are not as godlike as you made them out to be. And at the end of the day, as I said, we're all just human. Well, I think that's basically it about at this point. I mean, if you have a story, tell me about your hero story. I'd like to hear your story when it comes to who you've actually put in as being a hero. Please get back to me. Send me an email or send me a DM or even post it on Twitter @MadSoapbox. I'd love to hear your hero story if you have any. Maybe a hero that you met. Maybe a hero of yours that did turn out well versus not so well. I'd be very interested to hear about that. I like to hear the positive stuff, not necessarily always the gloomy, not so good stuff. But I hope if you do meet your heroes that it ends up being a good experience. But my advice is admire them from a distance. Don't put them too high on that pedestal and look around. You might just have people that are heroes closer to you than you realize. Your parents, maybe friends, maybe somebody locally in the community. They could be your hero, be an inspiration for you, somebody you can look up to, somebody that you can actually know that is going to be down to earth and remember the stories that you tell them. Just something to think about. I'm going to wrap this up for this Wednesday night of Get Off My Soapbox. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for listening. Please check out GetOffMySoapbox.com for more information on all our shows. We're revamping things. We are combined between both our Soapbox Daily and our Get Off My Soapbox. We are combined at well over 100 episodes. And so we're starting to rethink our formats, looking at getting some guests, some co-hosts and everything else. So we're working on that. We're working on that. As I mentioned also, coming the beginning of December, we're going to stop making the video component, but you can find out all that information and more at the FAQ section on Get Off My Soapbox. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you join us weekdays for Soapbox Daily, I will see you tomorrow morning. If you join us once a week for Get Off My Soapbox, this show right here, I will see you next week. I'm your host, Matt Morgan. Take care of yourself. Keep your integrity in check. Be the positive change the world needs. And I will see you next episode.
That's all for this episode of Get Off My Soapbox podcast. Appreciate you tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please share it with others, post it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from Mad Morgan, head over to GetOffMySoapbox.com for links and details. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow so you don't miss the next episode.